I'll do it, Splash.
I'll do it. We'll do it live.
Speaking of we'll do it live, the show is live now, Nick.
Oh, boy. Live from Luca's room.
Because you don't have the production tools like I do, but the show is live. And Splash, you had such a shit day today producing the show. You had an all day producing the show, and I'm going to fire you, Splash. I'm going to effing fire you after this show. Oh, shit, we're live. All right, we are live. We are live with OT with Nick and Frankie. We are live again, back-to-back weeks. We just got off Timeout with uSTADIUM with Brianna. That was a great show. You could always check us out at our YouTube, uSTADIUM. Make sure you subscribe and give us the thumbs up. And OT with uSTADIUM will follow Timeout with uSTADIUM on Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. We'll have interviews. We'll discuss recent topics in the NFL. We'll talk about the Jets because we are Jets homers over here, fanboys. And, we'll have a lot of fun stuff planned. But, with that being said, I want to thank everyone for joining the show. As always, subscribe to uSTADIUM on YouTube and give us that thumbs up. Smash that ish. And we do love our producer, Splash. I give him a hard time all the time, but we are big Ryan Splash Potts fans. We're going to talk later about why the Ravens suck and they can't win playoff games anymore, and that's because Ray Lewis isn't on your team anymore. So we'll get into that a little bit later, Splash. I'm gonna teach you something about football because I know you millennials tend to forget about the game and how it's really played, man. But
Splash earns his extra guac by producing OT with Nick and Frank too.
Yes, precisely. All right. With that being said, let's start the show. So today on OT with Nick and Frankie, we're going to get into topic one, which is Dan Graziano just had a tweet in response to a Deshaun Watson report that from The Athletic that Deshaun Watson would not want to go to the Jets because if the Jets were to get Deshaun Watson, they wouldn't be left with a lot because they would have to give up 3 maybe first-round picks and maybe Quinnen Williams and some other assets along the way. Now, Dan Graziano combated this report from The Athletic's Aaron Reese, saying that it's BS and it's not true, that the Jets do have the cap space and a bunch of other assets that would entice Deshaun Watson. But, Nick, let's throw it over to you because you had something similar to say on Twitter about this. What are your thoughts about this report by The Athletic's Aaron Reese that Deshaun wouldn't want to come to the Jets because we would just have given up way too much to bring him here?
Yeah, it's funny because I read The Athletic report earlier, and it was really just a quick little note about Watson's would be hesitant to come here because he'd be aware that it would limit the Jets' ability to build a roster around him. And I think that is the complete wrong way to look at it. I think if the report would have said Watson doesn't want to come here because of the lack of quality roster around him would be a different story. But saying him coming here would limit the Jets' ability to build around him, it's not true. So taking a look at, let's do the cap, for example, for first. Right now, the Jets have about $70 million in cap space, third most in the league, which is only a mill or two behind the Colts and a few more behind the Jaguars. Those two teams obviously aren't getting Watson. Same division. One team's getting Lawrence. The other team just got Wentz. The Jets can easily, and they will within the next few days and weeks, get that upwards of $90 million. And then if they move on from Jamison Crowder, which I'll touch on a little bit here, and then me and Frank will touch on in a bit, if they do decide to move on from him, they can have upwards of $100 million. And what happens is Deshaun Watson, due to all the bonuses and the guarantees that were paid out by the Texans already, is only due to count for $10 million and change on the 2021 cap. So that's basically what they're paying Sam Darnold anyway. And you were to trade him, you'll recoup another $4 or $5 million, I believe, on the cap and take a few million of a dead money hit, which isn't a big deal at all. And you'll acquire more picks for Darnold that you can in turn use to build around Deshaun Watson. But they can easily take that. Let's say he counts for $10 million this year, then it'll jump to 35 and 34 the next 2 years, which is a very fair deal for a top level quarterback, obviously. What you can do is you can easily front load a contract like an Allen Robinson. So, they can't do more than 20% of the contract. So it's not like they can pay, let's say they sign Allen Robinson to a 5-year, $100 million deal. and he's getting paid $20 million every year. You can't go and pay him $40 this year. There's restrictions and limits on what you can pay him. It can't be, more than 20% higher year to year. So, but you can go ahead and you can front load that Allen Robinson contract to this year and next year when Watson's money is lower, and then the Jets can shed even more cap room next year. The Jets are in great cap position, and credit to Joe Douglas. And I mean, look, it's easy to tear down and start a rebuild. The harder part is obviously rebuilding and adding talent and building a winner. Anybody can tear it down with the contracts and these cap wizards that they have now. But the Jets are in great financial state going forward. So they can easily front load an Allen Robinson contract, pay him let's say 27 to 30 million this year. And then that comes down over the next few years when Watson's number goes up. And you can do that with just, let's say, a Joe Thuney too, an offensive lineman. You want to build a better line around him. Go get Allen Robinson, go get Joe Thuney. Then you can say to Watson, hey, we have Jamison Crowder, who we like, solid receiver, great slot. Maybe Mike LaFleur doesn't depend, definitely Mike LaFleur doesn't depend on a Jamison Crowder or the slot position like Adam Gase did, where pretty much everything revolved around the slot in Gase's offense. You can say, hey, do you want to keep Crowder or do we move on from him, take that $10 million on the cap that we'll get and give it to somebody like a Will Fuller or a Curtis Samuel, someone that you do like? We do bring in two receivers that can help you. And then you're talking about an Allen Robinson, a Denzel Mims, who a lot of people like. You can even go and get a Jonnu Smith, let's say, or if there's a running back that he likes. That's just on the cap side of things. The Jets have plenty of cap room to build around Deshaun Watson on in free agency, which Graziano went on to say basically the part about saying it would limit them to build a quality roster around him makes no sense. The Jets have upwards of $70 million in cap already. Watson's 2021 cap is $10.5 million. There may not be a better team in the league better positioned to build a quality roster around Watson than the Jets. And he's right, taking cap space and the fact that the Jets have 2 first-rounders this year, 2 third-rounders this year. They probably will have 2 second-rounders after they trade Darnold.
Let me just say something really quick. And Nick, I think you might be hitting something when you're talking on your mic because I hear something like clicking like every time you're moving your hand.
I got a sandwich around a little bit.
Got a sandwich down there. I'm actually really hungry right now. I almost went down the street and got myself a couple tacos down over here. But all right, this makes zero freaking sense. Deshaun Watson, first of all, The Athletic right now has turned into a hack website. I think we all know that. They started charging you like $20 a month. Now it's like $1 a month. I think they figured out that we can share all this content for free and people re-upload stuff on Reddit. Why do we need to look at a hack reporter on Twitter who couldn't get it done on Twitter like Manish Mehta types and then get them over to The Athletic and they want to charge you money for it? If you've paid for The Athletic, I really feel bad for you. You're honestly wasting your money. You're better off getting a claw down the street and having some fun with your boys. But that's number one. Number two, this report is crazy. Deshaun Watson wants to get traded. So I don't think Deshaun Watson's I don't want to get traded to the Jets because they're not going to have enough draft capital or have enough room to make moves to make me happy and us win. No way. That makes no sense. Have you ever heard of that before? Sometimes when these reports come out, I tell myself, have I ever seen something like this happen before? As a quarterback who wants to leave his team as bad as Deshaun Watson does, he wants out of there. It's like a burning building to him. He can't get out of there soon enough. You really think he's going to care that much about what the Jets have in 2 or 3 years capital-wise? It's hogwash, as they say. It's a stupid report, and it's not legit at all. I'm glad Dan Graziano came out.
That's
someone with a name.
Around the same time, I was tweeting the same thing from uSTADIUM at the time. Is they have plenty of cap room. They have the draft picks. Even if they trade 3 picks for Watson, they'll still be left with a 1, whether it's this year or next year, 2 2s, 2 3s. They have plenty of ability to build around Watson. That report makes zero sense. If you want to come out and say Watson doesn't want to come because the Jets stink and the front office has been terrible, and I want to go to a better situation like the 49ers, that's another, then say that. That makes sense. But the fact that the report says that they don't think that they can build around Watson, Graziano is 100% right. There might not be a better team who can take, the Jets are like a ball of clay, and Watson can mold it to whatever he wants, right? You have Becton in the left tackle. You have Mims, who you like. You have a decent, few running backs who are okay. But you can grab from this free agent market. And the thing is, players will want to come play for Watson and play with him. Like, and Allen Robinson's not coming to the Jets without Deshaun Watson. You bring in Watson, the story changes. He's going to want to come and play with this guy. Same thing with like a Curtis Samuel or Corey Davis. Those guys might come without him, but regardless, like these guys are going to want to play here. And the Jets have the financial flexibility to do it. And then they also have the draft picks to, let's say you want to improve the offense on free agency, right? And go get Allen Robinson, Joe Thuney, and another guy. Then you can fix the defense through the draft with that first round pick, the multiple 2s and the multiple 3s. It makes no sense. The Jets have a ton of flexibility financially and through the draft to fix this roster. It's all about just getting it done at this point.
Yeah, it is. And then and another thing, and we discussed this last week on OT. And again, this is OT with Nick and Frankie. Make sure you subscribe to uSTADIUM on YouTube and hit that thumbs up. But this is one thing that we need to consider too, and we spoke about it last week. The Jets are the only team in the NFL that's able to give 2 first-round picks this year and 2 first-round picks next year. And why is that important? Because teams want to rebuild fast. No one wants to rebuild for 10 years. If you can rebuild in 1 year, that's the best situation for you as a franchise. Owners do not want to be in the dumps. It doesn't equate to fans, which doesn't equate to money. And that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to build fans, build money, and build a winner. So what the Jets have, which no other team has, is 2 first-round picks this year, 2 first-round picks next year that we can give to Houston, and they can use them in the next 2 years, get these young players in, and then potentially build a winner. So with that being said, at this point, it seems like the Texans do not want to trade Deshaun Watson, and they're trying to convince Deshaun Watson to stay in Houston. That's what's going on right now. It's not a Wentz situation where Wentz wanted to go and the Eagles were fine with letting him go because they're okay with Jalen Hurts. The Texans aren't okay with anyone because they don't have anyone after Watson. And Deshaun wants to probably leave Houston more than Wentz wanted to leave Philly, honestly. He really wants to get out of there. So you're talking about a situation where the Texans are going to do whatever they can to try to change Watson's mind. I think the decision, it doesn't come down to the Texans. I think it's done. Deshaun Watson's leaving Houston. It's a matter of when, not if. I thought it was going to happen, honestly, this week. I had a feeling it was going to happen. Obviously, that feeling was off. But you see on the other side, a quarterback that did successfully get traded this week was Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz was traded from the Philadelphia Eagles to the Indianapolis Colts, combining back with or joining Frank Reich again, which was his quarterback's coach, right, Nick? Back with the Eagles, turned offensive coordinator. Yeah. It was their offensive coordinator, but he was, I think, originally Reich was a quarterback's coach. And now Wentz was traded for a 3rd-round pick in this year's draft and a conditional 2 next year, which if he plays 75% of his snaps during 2021, the Colts would then that 2 would then change into a 1 to Philly. Now, why this is important is for a couple of reasons. One, the Colts right now, they look like a dark horse team, potentially to make a Super Bowl run next year. I mean, you're talking about a team that went 11-5 this year. They looked really good, and that was with Phillip Rivers, who was obviously basically on his last fumes. You bring in Carson Wentz, and with those running backs, and as we were talking about on Timeout with uSTADIUM, the 7th best offensive line according to PFF, and that was a down year for them. Wentz is finally, it looks like, going to go into a place where he'll get the talent around him and a system that he's used to with Frank Reich, and be able to maybe bring that team into the Super Bowl, which next year is in LA. Now for us Jet fans, I think, and Nick, jump in, but I think this affects Sam Darnold's trade market significantly. I was pessimistic about Darnold's value on the market. I didn't think we were going to get a 1. I thought it was a 2. We get a 2nd-round pick, a 2nd and a 4th, and then one of these 5s or conditional picks, or etc. I think with this deal, because I don't think this was a great deal for Philly, and for a multitude of reasons. It's not a first. Wentz needs to play. Wentz has injury problems, so it was a good deal for the Colts. I think this turns the Darnold second-round value that I think we can agree, Nick, that Darnold's worth. I think it changes that Darnold second-round value into Darnold third-round value. I think Darnold now becomes worth a third-round pick on the market, not a second. And us Jeff fans are going to get screwed when we wake up one day and Darnold's been traded for a third to the Washington football team or the Chicago Bears. We'll get into that in a little bit. But, Nick, what do you think about that analysis?
The two are not – they don't go hand in hand. These are different situations. What it shows you is a starting quarterback on this market right now is worth at least a first-round pick. A first-round pick has been involved in both trades, and that will show you because this 2 is going to become a 1 unless Wentz gets hurt, and then the whole thing is just thrown off anyway. But the Eagles went out and they got a 1 for a guy who they had problems in the locker room with. His play was terrible. He was making a ton of money. He had an issue with the coach, an issue with the GM, did not want to be there anymore, basically said, I want to go. He pretty much picked the Colts, and there wasn't a huge market for this guy. It turns out the Bears were barely interested. Glazer said they didn't even make an offer, where there were reports that there was a big market for him. It turns out nobody wanted to take on this player and the injury issue, plus this contract, and give up more than a 1. The Eagles turned out and got a 3 for him this year, and probably will end up getting a future 1. So I don't think they did a bad job at all. I think they wanted a 1 for him. They most likely got it, even if they have to wait another year, because the Colts were being very stingy with their draft picks. Didn't offer a 1 for Stafford, weren't offering a 1 for a Darnold trade. So, you're talking about a guy in Stafford and Wentz who definitely have a better resume than Sam Darnold does, but Darnold comes a lot cheaper, a lot less risk. You can move on from this guy, wipe your hands clean of him if in 2021 he does nothing for you. Or if you want to, do a 2-year trial run, you're basically paying an average of $17 million in 2 years for a starting quarterback at 25. And if you're trading for him, you're trading for the ceiling and what you expect him to be, not what he was with Adam Gase. So the two Wentz and Darnold trades are not exclusive to each other. They're on their own. So the Jets will field calls, and they've fielded calls from about 6 or 7 teams already looking to trade for Sam Darnold. And what they've said was, we're going through our evaluation of the draft quarterbacks. Call us back next week. Call us back in 2 weeks, whatever it may be, or we'll call you back when we're ready to move on. I think they will eventually move on. I think what you said about Washington makes a lot of sense. It'll be, pick 51 and then probably a 2022 4th or 5th rounder. I think that's eventually what he does get moved for. I don't think the fact that they didn't get the 1 that they were looking for this year has any effect on the Jets not being able to turn him into at least a second rounder plus. Josh Rosen got traded for a 2nd and a 5th rounder, and he's awful, and he was awful. And the Cardinals at the time had no leverage because they had just drafted Kyler Murray. So I don't think the trades have anything to do with each other.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is Sam Darnold did not even have a stretch of games this year that you can put together. And I'm talking about you could pick any stretch you want. It's like taking 4 games on a game log and just saying, I'm going to pick game 6, 8, 15, and 10 and just combine these stats. And this is what Sam Darnold's given us last year over a 4-game stretch. He had none of that last year. He had 9 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. He was dead last in QBR. Sam Darnold was terrible last season, and he didn't help his value at all on the open market. Not that he really cares, but as Jet fans and the organization, speaking from their behalf, they care that this guy could not put together a string of games like he did a few years ago when he, over the last 4 games of the season, if you remember, Nick, he had the number 1 QBR in the game. And if he finished off the year like that this year, this year, who knows?
The Jets wouldn't be moving on from him, though. That's the thing here. So, and that's why this is so interesting and why it makes so much sense, because the Jets wouldn't move on from Darnold if Darnold played better, because they wouldn't be picking 2, because they wouldn't have lost so many games, right? So they're picking 2 and they have the opportunity. Let's put Watson aside, right? They have the opportunity at 2 to get the second best quarterback in the draft, whether you think it's Wilson, Fields, whoever it is. You see Darnold, you're a year closer to having to pay this guy. So ultimately, you have to decide, am I going to pick up his option? You're in the same situation as the Bears were, and the Bears didn't move Trubisky, and look what happened to them. They wish they would have traded Trubisky. Teams are going to trade for Darnold because of that stretch in 2019 or 2018 of games that says, wow, this guy, when he is in the right system, he has some talent around him, he can play in the top half of the league with the top half of the quarterbacks, and we're only going to have to pay him on average $17 million at worst in the next 2 years. I'm going to make that trade for this guy and take the shot instead of going, Fitzpatrick, Trubisky, that route in free agency. These other teams aren't going to be able to get from where they're drafting, like Washington, up to where the Jets are at 2 and 3 with the Dolphins to get Wilson or Fields. So Darnold is attractive to them because he's still 23 years old and he's still affordable. So Darnold, I know fans who look at it and like, this guy's terrible, lowest QBR. They're not looking at it as him against somebody else, him against, do I give up 2 ones, my 1 this year and a 1 next year, to go up to 5 or 6 with the Eagles and take Mac Jones? Do I think Darnold is better than Mac Jones as a prospect? Both are one's 22, one's 23. Darnold is definitely a better prospect coming out than Mac Jones was, or Darnold was than Mac Jones is. So Darnold holds a lot of value, and that's why there are 6 or 7 teams calling, and it just makes too much sense for the Jets to get another 2, use it to build around whether they get the quarterback in the draft this year or they go and add it to a Watson deal to move on from a Darnold right now.
Yeah, well, some of the teams that are rumored to have called up the Jets and asked about Sam Darnold are the New Orleans Saints, the Chicago Bears, the Washington football team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Carolina Panthers, the San Francisco 49ers, and obviously the Houston Texans. So with that being said, it looks like Sam Darnold's market isn't going anywhere. He will be traded, I would assume, in the next couple of weeks. The Jets do want to do their diligence now and look at, next topic, one of these 2 quarterbacks. Coming into this offseason, we have, and going into the NFL draft, 2021 NFL draft, after Trevor Lawrence, and I know there was a report that Zach Wilson, scouts had Zach Wilson in front offices ranked above Trevor Lawrence. Do I think it's true? Yes, I do. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. Trevor Lawrence is probably going to be the number 1 pick. Unless you have a situation like in 2018, maybe we were talking about on Timeout, where Baker Mayfield comes up out of nowhere and it's Darnold's spot to lose, and then Baker comes up and becomes the number 1 pick. Could I see that happening with Zach Wilson? Potentially. I don't think it's realistic. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to the Jaguars. We can speculate it out, but don't get your hopes up on that. Now, second pick. Nick, we're on the clock right now. Number 2 pick. Deshaun Watson's been traded already. He's in San Fran. He's with Mr. Shanahan. We're drafting 2. Trevor Lawrence was picked. You have the number 2 pick. What are you doing right now?
Oh, yeah, no brainer. It's Wilson. I think not only is he the better player in my eyes, he's also a better fit for the current offense with Mike LaFleur coming from the Shanahan mold. I think he fits better. I think the quick decisions, I think the mental aspect of the game, Wilson is above Fields at. I think he brings more to the table in terms of playing with a lot less, which he did at BYU. He played with a lesser roster than Fields did. Fields was playing with an all-world offensive line, very talented receivers. I think at BYU, Wilson's done a lot more with a lot less. And he fits more of what the Jets want to do under a Mike LaFleur than what Fields does. If Fields is to pick, I'm not going to be pissed about it by any means. I think for sure they need to move on from Darnold, and I think one of these 2 guys need to be the pick for the Jets at 2. I just lean Wilson for those reasons, and I think he's the better prospect than Justin Fields.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I over the last couple days have been doing a lot of scouting on both these guys. I'm looking at Zach Wilson, and I'm impressed, I will say. I think he does everything you want out of a quarterback. I'm not going to lie. You do see a little bit of Aaron Rodgers in him. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, Jeremiah said that. Yeah.
Yeah, the way he pops his hips, the way he gets the ball out, the way he can move. I do think he has a lot of the on-field mechanics that you're looking for at the professional level. Now, with that being said, if it was up to me, I think you got to go with Justin Fields with the number 2 pick. Justin Fields is someone that, if you look here with some of these highlights, this guy is able to make throws anywhere on the field. He's not scared in the pocket like you see right there. He can move. He's a gamer. He's tough. And I think he's really someone that you can give the keys to as a number 2 pick, and you're not going to worry about him potentially flopping. I am scared to death that if the Jets take Zach Wilson too, he's mentally not prepared to lead an NFL organization. He's not able to put himself mentally in a place where he just cares about winning, and he eats, sleeps, and drinks it. And even if he gets popped 15 times in a game, he's going to get up the 16th time and be in your face, a la Tom Brady. And I think you need guys in the NFL that are at least somewhat give you that mentally to some capacity. I think Justin Fields gives you that. He has that. I always say about Justin Fields is a better Jalen Hurts. It reminds me of a better Jalen Hurts.
That good though? Like Jalen Hurts, I don't even think he's going to start.
I think it's good enough though. I think the where Jalen Hurts has his flaws, I think Fields doesn't. They have similar throwing motions, but I think Fields has a better arm. Fields can get the ball downfield quicker. Has a bigger arm. Better in the pocket. Look how he moved right there, Nick. You see that little side movement, wide hips, base, launches it. Kid can play football at the pro level, and I think he's got it but here, which I don't know if Zach Wilson does. That's my biggest concern. And not to get into this again, but from 2009, people have to realize, to 2016, there were 22 quarterbacks selected in the first round. From 2009 to 2016, 22 quarterbacks were selected in the first round. Not one is still on the team that drafted them. Check out this list. Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Paxton Lynch, Jameis Winston, Mariota, Bortles, Manziel, Teddy, EJ Manuel. I cannot believe that he was the only quarterback picked in the first round that year. Andrew Luck, RG3. It scares the hell out of me to say that we're going to take Zach Wilson with the number 2 pick.
But then why would Fields scare you? It's just he's also a quarterback by judging by that.
Yeah, but when I'm looking at these guys,
so you're just never going to take a quarterback in the first round because of this? Like, why don't we put up quarterbacks that are still on where they were drafted? It's like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert.
The thing with Fields, though, that I think he has on every single quarterback on this list is the leadership intangible. I see Jared Goff, not a leader. Carson Wentz proved this year, if the situation's not right around him, he's not a leader. Jameis Winston, he's not a leader. Justin Fields, I feel like he's going to go in there and he's going to command the respect and the leadership, which is where I think these carnival quarterbacks, I call a lot of them, just didn't pan out with them because they didn't have that leadership intangible. I think Justin Fields has it. He has the it factor. Now, I get why people love Zach Wilson completely. I think from an on-the-field perspective, Zach Wilson is better on the field of play of football. He looks better as a quarterback than Justin Fields. But if I'm giving the keys with the number 2 pick and I'm giving a 2-14 organization with a new head coach that's a rah-rah kind of guy, and I'm giving the keys to somebody, I'm giving it to Justin Fields over Zach Wilson.
Yeah, and I'm going to take, to me, Fields looks quiet. Reminds me almost of like how Darnold was, the lead by example kind of guy. I mean, if that's what you're into, that's fine. For me, on Wilson's resume is taking a terrible BYU football program 2 years ago that was 4-9 and turning them into an 11-1 team, which was the 10th ranked team in the country this year. Already shown what he can do, taking a bad program and leading them to being a ranked team. Whereas Justin Fields, all he did was transfer from a club to a team that was ready-made, steer the ship, don't fuck it up. Here's Chris Olave, a top 5 receiver in the country. Here's Wyatt Davis, interior, second round, who's going to be a second round pick. They have a great team around them and a great coaching staff. Ryan Day, one of the best in the country. To me, I see what Wilson has already done, and I will go with what the resume says when we're talking about intangibles and things that you can't measure on the field. I'm gonna side with what I've seen rather than what I think what a guy could potentially be in terms of leadership ability between Watson and Fields.
That's what I think about your Zach Wilson.
I think Luca wants us to move on.
Yeah. With that being said, let's move on. It's going to be a big and hot debate up until draft day. Yeah. So, assuming the Jets don't get Deshaun Watson, this is going to be the conversation we're having. Nick, last thing on this: is there any way that you'll want the Jets to not take a quarterback? Is there any situation we don't take a quarterback, we get Penei Sewell, and we worry about quarterback later?
No. I think it's just time to move on from Darnold,
Yeah. All right. With that being said, it's a big off season for a lot of teams. We came out with a list today of top unrestricted free agents and where we expect them or if we expect them to leave or not. 5 stars means we expect them to leave for sure. 1 star means we probably expect the team that they just that the contract expired with to re-sign them. So we have it up on uSTADIUM.com. Visit uSTADIUM.com for your daily NFL and sports needs. We got all the hottest breaking news and debates around the world of sports. We have a new update in the App Store coming out in about, hopefully in a few days, unless Apple wants to get super fancy and like not put our updates through because they think their ish don't stink. But so we'll get that up on the feed soon, and we'll go through some free agents. Splash, you're having a rough day today, brother.
I think the Splash, team.
Flash, what the hell's going on today? This is an epically bad. It's not even the post I wanted up, bruh.
we can go to some questions if we want. Ben asked, do you guys think? And this kind of ties into what we were talking about.
Splash, you're done.
The Dolphins and Jets are the only teams in the running for Watson because they have the 2nd and 3rd pick. Yeah, I mean. Ben, we had John McClain on last week, and he said the only team he would trade Watson to is the Jets for that reason. You get the choice of whichever quarterback you want to go with. Even if you trade to 3, let's say, and I tweeted about this, and it's an interesting thought. Now, Justin Fields' agent is David Mulugheta, who is also Deshaun Watson's agent. The last thing that the Texans want to do is trade to 3 and be sitting there and have the Jets pick Zach Wilson and be stuck with David Mulugheta's client in Justin Fields. That just wouldn't be a pretty situation. So that makes that number 2 pick even more valuable. You have teams like the Panthers and Niners. I can see those teams if Watson has more say in this than we expect or we think he might have. He might want to go to Carolina because he's from South Carolina. He might want to go to San Francisco because they're in better shape roster-wise. But in terms of draft value, nobody can beat the Jets. Nobody can offer more than the Jets can. Same with the Dolphins. If they really like Tua, that makes sense. So it's a good question. But, yeah, I mean, I only see those 2 teams makes the most sense for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I agree with that. I think they both make a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, it's going to be about the capital assets that the Texans are getting. If you don't have the capital, they're not going to do it, the Texans, and there's no need for them. They don't want Watson out anyway. But with that being said, let's go through some of these free agents, Nick. All right, Nick, quarterback. Which one out of these guys do you think available here? Let's say Dak is not going to go anywhere. Which one would intrigue you the most if you're a team that's looking for a quarterback, and kind of where do you see them going potentially?
Yeah, obviously if it's not Dak, I mean, I think I don't want anything to do with Jameis. I don't want anything to do with Trubisky. Dalton showed you what he is. I mean, I guess it would have to be like Jacoby Brissett. He's younger. He's smart, like a very smart player. Players love him. Every team he's been on loves him. I just don't know if he's talented enough, but he's a guy I guess I would invest in. I think he's probably the best backup in football if you can get either him or Fitzpatrick. So it would have to be Brissett if I'm forced to go that route.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Brissett's a rough one, man. Honestly, this is going to sound ridiculous, And I cannot believe I'm saying this. By the way, Splash, good job taking the OT with Nick and Frankie banner up there. Keep it up. Block uSTADIUM the whole time. That's good. Just block it. We don't need to show that. Just leave it up, dude. Yeah. I'm going with Joey Flacco, man.
Oh my God, you and this Flacco guy.
Give him one more year. Give him a year. Out of these guys, all right, Andy Dalton is trash. Forget him. Mitch Trubisky's even worse trash. Cam Newton, I want to say, but what are you going to do? You have to rebuild an entire offense? Joe Flacco played pretty good this year. Out of these guys, I'm saying, Nick, out of these guys, which are terrible.
I mean, if you're going on that, it's Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, for 1 year, it's absolutely. Yes, for 1 year, definitely. But I'm going Flacco there. All right, now scrolling down. It's funny because most people would say Winston.
I know.
So.
See, this is a quietly interesting list of free agent running backs, and I know they're not going to get paid. Obviously, like nobody's paying running backs. Aaron Jones, I think, ends up back in Green Bay because if they let Jones go, and after what they did to Rodgers last year, he's going to throw a fit. So I think he ends up back there. I'm not a big Connor fan. I'm not a big Kenyon Drake fan, but who I do like, I like Chris Carson if you don't have to pay him a lot. And I really like Jamal Williams. I think he's a guy, if you bring in 2-3 year deal, $5-6 million in a committee, let's say even with the Jets, let's say they go with a running back by committee this year and even draft a guy. I think Jamal Williams is a really quietly good back. He's cut from like the Bilal Powell cloth a little bit better. I think he's an intriguing guy. Like Marlon Mack, I really like, but the Achilles injury hurts. But there's some guys in here who you can sign relatively cheap, even 1 year deals, and not have to invest so much capital in the draft or in free agency too. Yeah,
and speaking of that, look at a guy like Jerick McKinnon, how well he played when he had an opportunity this year, or Mike Davis. I mean, the Panthers really didn't skip much of a beat with him out there over Christian McCaffrey, over CMC. So that was interesting to see all year. You can definitely find value with the running back at the running back position for sure. And now getting into just wide receivers, this is a very, very good list. When you're talking about wide receivers available in this free agency, you can really build a good wide receiving core. If you have one guy in-house, you bring in a guy or two on this list, and you could really see some boom there. Who I really like, obviously, on this list, I love Chris Godwin, but I don't know if he's going to be leaving. I am a big Kenny Galladay fan, so I think you're talking about these three top guys. You're really going to get just tremendous value and legitimate number one wide receiver value. Going down that list, Nick, I know you like Curtis Samuel, as do I. He can do a lot of great things. Splash, we don't need the pointer. It's fine.
I think Marvin Jones is another good candidate too. I mean, I know you're talking like third tier here. The first tier, like you said, Robinson, Godwin, Galladay, and then if you want to put Juju, I think Juju is going to be the top name available because I think Robinson, you're talking tag and trade probably. Same thing with Galladay. I think Godwin just returns to Tampa. But then you have the next tier of Juju, Samuel, and Davis, who are probably going to sign elsewhere and get top market dollar. And then you have the next tier, that's the T.Y., the Fuller, the Marvin Jones group there that can be a really good number two in a good offense. Like those are good names, like who've had a lot of really good, years on their resume. Then you have like the real injury risks and flyers and AJ Green, Sammy Watkins, and Nelson Aguilar. Like Aguilar he had like 900 yards in Vegas last year.
He did. He had a really good year. Everyone's been saying about Sammy Watkins that they think he's done. It's over. But Nick, he's only 27 years old.
It's crazy to think that. Yeah.
So it's not like Sammy Watkins isn't an old player. If he can stay healthy, do you think there's any value there with Sammy Watkins?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I mean, look, when he's on the field, man, he produces. I mean, and on an offense of Kansas City, they spread the ball around a lot. I mean, you have Tyreek, you have the running game, you have Kelsey. So he's not getting, there has been games where he's getting 8 or 9 targets, and he usually makes the most out of them. But, like, you just can't – he's kind of like a 1 to 2 year flyer. Like, you can't trust him to be, like, your number 1 or 2 guy. It's, like, got all the talent in the world. But, I mean, as you mentioned on Timeout, like, I loved Watkins coming out of college, but it's just he fooled you so many times with the injuries, and tough to depend on him.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, if you guys want to check out this list more on this list, go to uSTADIUM.com or the uSTADIUM app. You'll see it on the breaking news ticker. We have all of our free agents for the year for this offseason. We'll keep updating it throughout. And yeah, it's going to be a wild offseason. So if you guys think it's been crazy already with the Stafford trade and the Wentz deal, get ready for what's going to happen with this offseason moving forward. I don't think it's going to be like anything we've seen from the quarterback carousel to some of the available free agents. I think it's going to get pretty wild.
4 teams already with new quarterbacks.
That's insane.
If you count Hurts and the Eagles, you have the Colts with Wentz, Goff to the Lions, Stafford to the Rams. I mean, and we're still a month away from free agency. It's like the NFL is going to have to do something about the start of free agency being so late. Like, nobody listens to that shit anymore. It started already.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, yeah, we're going to do some quick fire questions and we'll get on out of here. We have an announcement. We're going to have a show with Hunter Henry being hosted on uSTADIUM Live, baby. Hunter Henry on the network. Oh, yeah. So that's going to be official. That is official, actually, but he'll be having a show on the network next week. And we'll keep doing this. So, yeah, let's go through these questions quick, and we'll wrap it up out of here, Nick. We've been here way too long today.
I'm super excited about C.J. Mosley. I actually talked to him today, and he's healthy. He's ready to go. He's excited about Saleh. What Saleh did with Fred Warner in that defense, if Mosley's still young, 28 years old, like, comes back healthy, ready to go, I'm like, that's a huge – you're talking about the quarterback of a defense coming back. Like, that's a big addition to the Jets.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It was so sad to see him not play this year, but
I don't blame him not playing with Gase in that shitty year. I think it's just a +1 on his intangibles, knowing what a disaster it was going to be this year.
Yeah, seriously. At 23, I don't have a player for you, but I have a position. I think we need to look at the wide receiver and tight end position. You're going to get a quarterback in one way or the other. You're going to get a quarterback. What does a quarterback need? A tight end and a wide receiver. I was team Chris Herndon for way too long, and that's blown up in my face. Although he looked better towards the end of the season, but we need to get a wide receiver or a tight end. So I would target one of those at 23.
I'll give you 2 names if you want to keep an eye on. Is J.C. Horn, cornerback, South Carolina. Love his game if he's there. Or Kadarius Toney, my guy in the draft, receiver from Florida. Love that guy. If they don't get Curtis Samuel, he's like a Curtis Samuel on steroids.
Oh, interesting. Nice.
Frank, quick.
We should have given Adam Gase an extension.
Yes.
I mean, come on, man. You're going to guarantee yourself a top 2 pick forever.
You'll get the quarterback eventually. Oh, this is for you.
Yes, I do. I just can't say anything.
Yeah.
Darnold's getting traded, guys, in a few weeks. He's done.
What do you guys think of the Panthers offer? Ben, I think they said that was a fake news report, but 3 firsts and McCaffrey, I mean, that's really the only way a team like the Panthers or somebody picking later in the draft can get a guy like Watson over the Jets and Dolphins is if they add already young, affordable, star players to the deal. I don't think it was true, but I would do it if I were the Panthers 100%. I'm not going to let a running back, regardless of how good he is, just like I wouldn't let Quinnen Williams, regardless of how good he is, hold up a chance at a 25-year-old elite quarterback.
I agree with that.
Yes, Mike.
Yeah, Mike, I do. Unfortunately, Sam Darnold just didn't work out here. It
ended up being Frank and I love Darnold.
We loved him, man.
Darnold.
Yeah, I hope Darnold
fucked him over more than vice versa.
Totally. Yep. It's something where you get in your own head. It's a confidence issue for Sam. I hope Sam goes somewhere and lights it up. He deserves it.
And I don't say that and believe that much. I'm a vengeful kind of guy when it comes to football. Like, if a guy leaves my team, I don't root for him. But Darnold is a guy, unless he goes to like a team I don't like. Like, if he went to Washington, I'd root for him to win the division every year.
Should the Steelers move on from Big Ben? Not yet. Where are they going to go? You're going to play Mason Rudolph next year? Are we going to draft somebody? I mean, in a few years, absolutely. And if they can make a deal for someone, maybe. But it's not time yet. Big Ben's got another year.
Darnold. Give the one for Darnold, and that's it. $41 million is a lot. He ain't coming back at that at that rate. So they're going to have to do something with his contract.
Nick, what do you think? Who wins the AFC South?
Ain't the Texans, ain't the Jaguars. It'll be the Titans and Colts. I'll go with the Colts because I think Wentz is an upgrade. I think Wentz, when he's right, is better than Tannehill.
I think the Titans. I'm a big Titans fan. I love me some A.J. Brown and Mike Vrabel.
Leaving might hurt. Could hurt Tannehill. He might turn back into a pumpkin. Never know.
Remember when you turned back into a pumpkin after you got off your diet?
Yeah, and I haven't gone back yet. What do you think about Von Miller? If he gets I mean, it's a position in need. He's got some off-field stuff going on.
Yeah, weird stuff.
I don't know what it is. It's been weird ever since he got COVID and then got hurt. It's been a really bad year for him. I don't know.
Is it a foregone conclusion he's getting cut?
No, actually, heard no decision has been made yet. I know Graziano kind of reported that they're leaning towards not picking up his option. But I mean, we'll see. Who knows where he is health-wise, and with this off-field stuff, I don't think we're close to a decision yet. But it needs to be made by March 16th.
Yeah, and Von Miller will be scary on the open market though, because it takes him. It takes one team, and it takes Von Miller. Will take him 2 games to get back into mental game shape, and you're gonna have a beast edge rusher for a season for sure. Is the talk real with some GMs liking Wilson? I think absolutely. Yeah. Do I think it's true? Do I think Wilson's better than Lawrence? No, not at all. Do I think GMs do and scouts? Definitely. Yep, you saw it in one. Yeah, I think there's more than one though, but if you look at 2018, I was saying it, the Baker Mayfield bandwagon was hitched after the season was over, and you saw a lot of people looking at Baker, and Sam Darnold went from being that can't miss number 1 pick where you had the Browns owner sitting with Darnold's parents during the pro day, Nick. If you remember the rain, it ended up being that. I thought it was over then too.
I don't think it's over.
You never know. Know. But I do think it's legit. The report.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some truth to it. But yeah, I agree. I wouldn't do it. Last one. Do we have one more, or are we done?
Do you think the Jets package?
I don't think so. Nah. I would honestly, at that point, I'd just rather the extra pick. I wouldn't want to. I'd rather get a 2nd-round pick and keep to 23 than just moving up 12 spots, unless a guy like Jalen Waddle falls for whatever reason, and you can, get a top 10 player. I don't know. I probably would lean towards keeping 23 and getting a 2nd-rounder rather than a swap to move up.
Yeah. All right, guys. With that being said, we're gonna round out the show. OT with Nick and Frankie will be on after Timeout with uSTADIUM on Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. You can find us here. Next week, we'll try to get a nice interview lined up for everybody. Look out for us on the uSTADIUM.com website or the uSTADIUM app on the App Store. We have an awesome update coming out, so just check that out. Producer Splash, I know I was giving you shit all day. You the real MVP, bro. Bring him on. Producer Splash.
Hey, what's poppin'?
Damn.
What's poppin'?
What are you?
I love Splash.
Who's in there? Who you? Why is there a whiteboard? You teaching somebody?
Oh no!
Hey, he's gonna take you to school on quarterbacks. The new Gruden right there. The Gruden whiteboard.
All the desks. It's just what I have to do for homework.
Oh, okay.
I respect it.
Yeah.
Do your homework, kids.
Yeah.
Don't end up like me.
All right, guys. That's a wrap. OT with Nick and Frankie's over. See y'all next week.
See you next week, guys.
Later.